Hello everyone, welcome to the first chapter of the Huawei HCIP OpenELDR course. This section, we will continue to introduce the common service management of OpenELDR. In the previous section, we have learned about the principles and key features of the Apache HTTP service. In this section, we will install the Apache, look at its configuration file information, understand the specific configuration meaning, and verify whether the Apache service is running properly.
Okay, let's prepare a Linux server to install Apache. Run the uname -a command. You can see that the Linux kernel of the x86 is 5.10 generation. And then we run cat etcos release command. The command shows that the server runs OpenELDR 22.03. And next we will use binaural package to install Apache HTTP service. Run the command dnf install y and httpd. The Apache HTTP service is named HTTPD in the Linux server. The performance of the DNS is better than we use YAML. And then we're waiting for its installation process. After installation is complete, we run the command httpd -v to verify that the Apache 2.4.51 has been installed. And we can see that we run httpd -t to check the configuration file. Here have the alarm could not reliability determine the server's fully qualified domain name. So it just means the service domain name have something wrong. And so in this way, we can check the configuration file from etc httpd. So here we firstly install the tree tools, use dnf install and tree. And then after that, we use the tree etc httpd to check the configuration directory architecture. Here we can see the list of the directory, and the first one, this conf, etc httpd conf, that is the main directory, and the http configure.conf is a main configuration file. And besides this, such as conf.d, it's extended configuration file directory, and for .modules.d, that is the modules configuration file directory. And then for the logs, that means the logs file were stored at the directory where are logs http, but the full path of that is etc httpd and vr logs httpd. And then next, for modules, it indicates that the modules configuration file will stored at users library 64 httpd and modules. And then run means we stored the files to httpd, and the parent process ID also will be stored here, and the state points to the directory where the httpd status information is stored. And these four items are all soft link files. And here you can see the main configuration file is used to store globally variables. To modify some parameters or functions, you need to create extended configuration file, that is conf.d directory, instead of modifying the main configuration file. This improves the readability of the configuration file, and the filter is also can help the maintenance. And also sometimes if you don't want them to be available, you can also delete some configuration files. And so in this way, it will not be used. And next, let's open the main configuration file with the vim command. vim etc httpd conf.httpd.conf. And then we use set command to set number to look at the key lines number. Firstly, let's see line 31 server root. It means the root path of the configuration file. That is the main configuration file directory we just mentioned. For the line 44, it's the listen specifies the address and the port on which the server is listening. If just only the port 80 is specified and no address is being used, the HTTPD service can access through port 80 of or network adapter address of the server. If an address is specified, the server can be accessed only through this address. And the address here refers to the network interface. It's just followed our configuration. If you allowed access on multiple port numbers, you can also use listen multiple times to configure this. If you need to add an extended configuration file to modify the listening information, if you need add a new .conf files on the conf.d directory to extended configuration. And the next line 58, it indicates the configuration file corresponding to the functional module. And this will be stored in config.d directory. And then we turn to 68 to 69. That indicates the user who executes the HTTPD service and the group to which the user belongs. After the HTTP service is installed, the system automatically creates the Apache user and user group. And then we can turn to the loss line mode. Use columns tail command and etc password to view the user information file. And this information file will be shown to the bottom of the screen. And here you can see that is the new user's information after we install the Apache. And then we turn back to the configuration file and let's see line 88. It's the address that the server includes when it turns an error message to the client. And next we turn to line 97 where the server name is commented out. Here we can check the default configuration, that is 3W example, example and 80 port, which allows the server to know that the domain name is example, so that the server can return the specific page matching the domain name and control the access permission. When we used the HTTPD command earlier, it reported an error that the fully qualified domain name could not be determined. The default examples should be disabled. So here we need to change it to, for example, 3w.test.com, but because the resolution of this domain name has not been configured, so it will not available even after we configured. So here we changed it to 3w.test.com and use port number is 80. And then we turn to the lines 104 through 107. This setting means that the server's root directory is not allowed to be modified, and all access to the root directory is denied. This is usually used to increase the security of the server. And then we turn to line 121. This is a path where the home page is stored. It is the starting point of all HTTP requests on the server. And by default, Apache uses this path as the root directory. This directory contains all the web page files and directories on a Apache server. When a user accesses the website through a browser, the Apache server searches for the request file or directory from the root directory. After that, if no other document root is specified in our Apache server configuration file, all HTTP requests will be processed relatively to this directory. If you need to change the root directory, through the extension configuration file, this line needs to be commented out also in the main configuration file for others to take effect, or otherwise it's just the main configuration file will be first. And then we turn to line 126 and to 132. It indicates that the vir3w directory cannot be overridden and all users can access the content in the directory. And next, from line 133 to 159 also describe the setting of permissions to control this directory. And then we turn to line 165 to 167, tells the server that when a user requests a directory, if that directory contains at least one file named indicate.html, when the server accesses this directory, it will automatically return this file instead of listing all files in the directory. This is also usually used for the root directory of the website, so that user can directly access the home page of the website without manually entering index.html after the URL. This is also part of the global configuration and is valid for all HTTP requests. And when one request arrives at the server, Apache first will check the configuration file in the conf.d directory to see if there are any configurations specific to the request. If there are, then Apache uses those configurations to process the request. But if not, the Apache will use the global configuration to process the request. And then we turn to 173 to 75. This directory says that all access requests to files beginning with .ht will be denied. And then we turn to 184. It indicates the path of storing error logs. And then next, 191 indicates that the log level is set to 1, which means that only the logs at the 1 level or higher are recorded. The levels from higher to low are emergence, alert, critical, error, warn, notice, information, and debug. And then we turn to line 193 to 220, which deny the location and the format of the log file. And next, lines 222 to 51 set a script and map the execution path of Common Gateway Interface, CGI for short, script to a specified directory. This setting allows users of the website to request the execution of CGI scripts, and the server can find and execute these scripts in the specified directory. And then we turn to line 257 to line 261, set permissions of the CGI specified directory. And next is 63 to 309 are for the MIME module setting. It tells the server how to handle different types of files. For example, from the line 285 to 286, here tells the server that if it's a .d file should be handled as compress. If the file is .t files, compress is using gdib. And the file, for example, is .shtml, will be processed as HTML files. And then we turn to line 380. It means the add default character set is UTF-8, sets the server default characteristics. And then we turn to line 330 and 27. That is, the files usually contains a large number of file type and MIME type mappings. It is important for the web server to process test file and determine the file type to ensure that different file type can be transmitted to client in a correct manner. And then we turn to 350. It enables the operating system kernels port so that the server can send files directly to the client without first reading the file into server memory. This is often used to improve the efficiency of static file transfers, as it reduces the number of file reads and writes. And then if we set on most module operating system, and the send file mechanism can significantly improve the performance. And finally, the final line tells the Apache server to include all files in the conf.d directory that end with .conf. This makes it possible to separate the configuration of the server across multiple files, rather than having everything in one master configuration file for easier management and maintenance. In this way, you can organize your server configuration modularly. Okay, we almost understand the main configuration file and just modify the server name after changing it to 3w.test.com. Now we press the ESC key and then use WQ to div and exit the VRM. And then we run the command httpd-t again to check the configuration file, and then it feedback OK. So it means no other error is reported and configuration file is normal. Now we can run the HTML enable httpd with now option command to set the service to automatically start and also start now. And after that, we can use HTML status httpd to check the status of this server. And now you can see the feedback in green is active. It means this server is running properly. Of course, we have the other different way. For example, you can also use the command such as runs the ss lmp and then grep port 80 to check whether port 80 is listened. And from here, we can check it have already listened. Besides this, alternatively, we can also use core 127.0.0.1 and also port 80 to see the feedback, and it will directly feedback the HTML files. And besides this, the other method to check maybe more easier or more commonly used, that is, we can directly enter the EIP of this HTTPD server in the browsers. And then from this page, you can see the HTTPD welcoming page is displayed on the browser. And here you can notice that the portal, it must be HTTP instead of HTTPS because we haven't configured. So you can view the services normally in any of these preceding modules.
In this section, we have successfully installed Apache, learned about its configuration directory structure, and analyzed the main configuration file in detail. In addition, we use multiple methods to verify that the service is started and running properly. This is a common method, and after any services is installed, we can use this method to test and verify the service. In the next section, we will modify the Apache configuration and change things such as the main page and explore the key features. Thank you for watching.